think there is a good neighbor narrative that is brewing, because it's a time when people, the most important need globally is to survive.
Correct.
So it's not the time for supernormal profits. It's the time for how do we all survive, as many people as possible.
Correct.
So if the private sector doesn't take initiatives to make their contributions, then we might see some arm twisting from the government, almost nationalistic tendencies to push resources.
And remember, they can actually take over those organizations.
To push resources to as many people as possible, to redistribute resources. So again, very, very uncertain times. We have never been here. It's not a Kenyan problem. It's not an African problem. It's not an American problem. It's not a Chinese. It is a global. It's a global problem. I think the pandemic is just one side of it. The other side of it is just the life side of it, surviving side of it. So clearly, there is no government that has gotten has a full package. So we are likely to see a lot more coming. Yeah, but all these packages and directives are coming with some implications, some costs, and maybe we can move this conversation there. When the government says, they're giving up on taxes, but they're actually increasing their spending, how do you bridge the gap? This deficit needs to be funded somehow.
Correct.
I don't know what your thoughts on this. What are the implications of all these directives that we're seeing? And I'm happy if you can tackle it globally, coming to locally.
Okay. So I think, again, we've already agreed that the key point right now is to survive.
Is to survive.
So for any budget...
Like in any war,
like in any war, it's to survive.
The most important thing is to survive.
Yes, like you survived this one. But anyway, I think if you look at any component of any budget that is drafted, I think every country in the world, almost in the world, drafts their budget annually. I think very few in Eastern Europe.
I doubt those budgets are making sense now.
Correct. So every component of that budget is usually number one is development. The development expenditure.
Yeah.
The second component is usually the recurrent expenditures.
Yeah.
Those are your wages and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So for us right now, our key priorities, and for everyone, even when you start from the way there in the States, when you go to Europe, in the UK, right now it's not a time to. It's not the time to worry now about your expenditure. It's not a time to build new roads.
Yes.
It's not a time to build new pipelines.
Yes.
It's not a time to put up another SGR. I think you've seen now talks of SGR all the way to Busia have paused, because now this is not a priority.
It's not the right time.
It's not the right time.
Yeah.
So now all those funds, and remember these funds are usually allocated way up front here. Now the challenge, and I think we're going to see that when you're talking about the US, they're not funding their GDP on heavily on debt, because remember they're the owners of the dollar. We know their debt to GDP is north of 100, so is Japan. But remember, they have again these resources, and the markets again can support it. But now they have enough reserves within themselves to now pause all the development expenditures, pause all the hirings that we had planned, all the we needed to create a new company for this. Now that has been paused. The key industries that are now being supported. One, again, what they're calling the essential. That's your food, food and beverage. And second is to make sure you're pharmaceutical, because you again need medicines. Remember, it's not just COVID you're fighting. You have people with diabetes, you have people with all these other problems that need to be taken care of. So it's to make sure those industries work. We're going to worry about the potholes later and everything else. When you come now to Kenya, and what complicates this problem is when you're creating our budget for the year, now our current fiscal budget.
Borrowing is a very big component.
Borrowing has already been accounted for it.
Yes.
And since Kenya is a very good borrower, and we've seen that in terms of the infrastructure bonds that we've been flouting out there and they've been taken up here.
Yes.
There's been so much
and the Euro bonds.
Now the question is, now we need to remove that element out. Remember, no one is willing now, or no one, or lesser people will be willing to invest in your Euro bonds.
Yes.
Again, because of the risk and sovereign risk elements of it.
Yeah.
So now what do? So we have almost 60%. Now we can't account for the 40%.
So borrowing externally is
that is a no-go zone.
a no-go zone.
Yes.
And
so
of course, the Kenya shilling or local currencies are depreciating.
Correct. We're not talking about 108 levels. Yeah. Yes. When we were here with you, I think we're talking about 102, 103.
Yes.
So you can see already 5 shillings up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, we are one of the best currencies in Africa.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
if you look at all the other currencies, it's a bloodbath.
Yeah.
So now we have 60% of our budget. That's the cash we had. So all the dams, all the SGRs, all the potholes, we've seen the president when he's cutting wages. He's not just doing it for the sake of it, is because, again, recurrent expenditure, especially wages, are a big component of our budget here. So when you bring that down by even 30%, we're freeing up that 30% for the national hospitals.
That's one way of funding.
That's one way of funding. So for the universal health care, you understand? When you get, I think when push comes to shove, now we'll have to print money and see our case go to 130 levels and beyond. Yeah. Again, that won't be so good for us. But then again, remember, we have the Britain institutions who will almost come certainly to bail us. I think we've already seen they already gave us 8 billion to help fight COVID. I think we're going, if worst comes to worst, we'll see more help from these people to just help us survive.
External grants are really the best option now.
Correct. And if you to add to that is, again, we know China by far, we are our biggest debtor.
Yes.
So we pay, I think we had 2 installments to pay this year.
Yes.
We've seen even the Britain institutions asking China in good faith that, first this thing started from China itself.
Yes.
It's good to show, to show leniency in interest payments, and they were asked to actually freeze the interest payments for 72 nations.
For 72 nations.
Yes, and Kenya this is something that happened, I think, on Tuesday, Wednesday. 72 nations.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking most of the African nations are there, but remember, China lends even to European nations. So I can assure you, Kenya was one of the nations that was there.
So the huge interest payments also to be frozen,
correct,
so that money is redirected to
universal healthcare.
To universal healthcare.
Correct.
And surviving.
And surviving.
And surviving.
Yes. So those are the things I think we're going to see going forward.